Hey y'all, it's Stephanie Ike Okafor, and I have a book coming out on August 27th, The Power of Your Dreams, a guide to hearing and understanding how God speaks while you sleep. Now it's available for pre-order anywhere books are sold, available in both English and Spanish. Now there's been this question about why a book on dreams, and I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why I'm so passionate about this book. But before we even get into that, this book is really an assignment for me. I wasn't looking to write a book on dreams. To be honest, I was actually looking to write a book about the relationship with Judas and Jesus and calling it a love story. And that could sound so interesting for you, but there's a revelation that I see in their relationship. But it became so clear to me that what the Lord was calling me to do was to write a book on dreams. I have had a history with dreams ever since I encountered the Lord. And some of you may know my story. At 9 years old, I had an encounter with an angel. And from that moment, it unlocked me to having encounters with the Lord and hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit. And a lot of powerful, life-changing encounters have happened through dreams. Now, let's go back to why I wrote this book, why I believe in this book, why a book on dreams. 3 key things that I will share today. Number 1 is the significance on the seeing realm. What do I mean by this? There are 4 primary ways that we experience the voice of God, right? Number 1 is the feeler. Number 2 is the knower. Number 3 is the hearer. And number 4 is the seer. And so the feeler, and I'm going to summarize this. I really dig into this in the book. The feeler are those that, God shares his emotions with them, right? Concerning a thing. So this is when people say, I sense peace when I'm here. Like I sense peace about this decision. I sense a peace. So what the Lord is communicating to you through your emotions is he's in it. Be still, right? That be at peace. And then sometimes you will go to a place, everything on paper looks amazing, but there is this irky feeling, this disruption in your spirit because the Holy Spirit is communicating to you that he is not in this. He is not for it. And so you sense his voice through your emotions, right? Then there's the knowers. The knowers are those that it's almost like the Lord, he shares his thoughts with you when the Holy Spirit shares his thoughts with you. And so there are things that you just know to do. It's not that you can't really pinpoint that I had a dream, I had a vision. There is just a knowing I must do this. And oftentimes this is accompanied by the gift of faith. When you just have this ridiculous faith to do something and it makes absolute sense to you. You didn't have a dream about it. It's not like you had a word about it, but you just know that if I do this, then it will work. And you're willing to risk it all to do this. The Holy Spirit is sharing his knowledge with you about a direction he's called you in, right? And then there are the hearers. And you can hear, and there are 2 ways you can hear. One is more rare and the other is more common. So you can hear audibly, right? There's experiences with hearing the audible voice of God. And that's when literally the Holy Spirit just, penetrates your earwaves to get a message to you. And there's when you hear him from just like your inner voice, right? That's when people talk about the voice in their head outside of their own. And the Holy Spirit is guiding you and teaching you. And so we go into this extensively. But then there's the seers. Now, the seers are those who experience visions and dreams. It's so interesting in the Bible, dreams are also known as visions of the night, right? And so this is now where through you realize that not everything you see is all that there is. Right? That is why sometimes in the Bible, you see when it would say, and the Lord opened his eyes and then he saw, boom. And so what you're seeing in the natural realm is not all that there is. There is spiritual activities happening all around you. But beyond that, you can have a vision where all of a sudden it's almost like the same way that you can engage with your imagination, that the Lord can bring you into a place and you're seeing it play out. And he's showing you about events to come or about something that you need to pay attention to in present time. And then obviously you have dreams when you're in a sleeping state. Now, dreams are so unique because in a dream, you can experience all things at the same time. In a dream, you can feel, you can know, you can hear, you can see. All experiences come together at once. This is the unique place about the seeing realm and about dreams particularly. Now, I love this so much because even when I was doing research, in the natural, right, it is said that the natural sight perceives up to 80% of all sensory impressions. And for this reason, scientists regard it as the most important of all human senses, the natural sight. But this is only a reflection of spiritual sight. Spiritual sight holds so much significance because you're experiencing everything. You can experience it all at once, right? And the beauty is, even though, and the seer realm is so beautiful because even though you don't have 20/20 eyesight, right? Do you know that blind people dream? I thought that was incredible, just revelation when I was reading about it, that a person born blind can actually dream with visual imagery. You see, it goes beyond, what makes sense. It goes beyond the norm, right? So number one is the significance of the seeing realm. You need to tap into the seeing realm. You need to tap into that stream of revelation and insight. Number two is recognizing that it is a language for the last days. Now, Acts 2 verse 17 says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." Now, this has been a mystery to me for a long time. I'm like, God, what does it mean your old men shall dream dreams? Because we know that everyone dreams. There's a track record of God speaking to people of all ages through dreams. And so why is it saying that in the last days, which we are in, your old men shall dream dreams? This is not about age, but about maturity. There is a maturity in the spirit to consistently receive words from the Lord, receive messages from God through your dreams. What do I mean by that? God does not speak to waste words. God does not speak to entertain. God does not speak to gossip. There are moments where in the mercy of God, he's trying to get a message to you, right? Because maybe of the significance and the magnitude of what needs to happen. But when you talk about consistently receiving from the Lord, there is a maturity to know how to handle the words of God, where you don't just discard them as random. You just don't, write it down and forget about it. God does not speak to waste words. So there is a place of maturity for the believer where we can be in a position that we are constantly receiving messages from God. Now, this is so significant because even in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus would talk about, give us this day our daily bread. When you study the life of Jesus and you recognize when he talks about food, that he's not just talking about natural food, when he even, especially that concept of bread, that he's talking about spiritual food. Give us this day the word that we need that will sustain us for the day. Give us this day the revelation and insight that will give us direction for how to move. Even before we see the Lord's Prayer, why did the disciples ask Jesus to teach them how to pray? Because they saw that Jesus moved with such efficiency. He moved with such precision. He knew exactly what he needed to do in a day, where to go, who to heal, who to speak to. His life was not random. His life had precision. And so daily, when he would commune with God, he was receiving the daily bread for what he ought to do. That's why in the language of Jesus, he would say things like, we must go through this town, right? We must go here. I have need for this, because he's already received a download from the Father, and you can too. That you can be in a position where daily you can receive from God. One of the things that I strongly stand by is that each night is an opportunity to receive the will of God. Each night is an opportunity for God's will to be revealed. And each day is an opportunity for it to be lived out. You can receive his will at night. You can live it out in the day. When you study the book of Genesis, the evening started the day. And so at the start of the day, you can receive the will of God through receiving messages from God concerning your life, right? And so number two, it's a language of the last days, but we must be mature to step into it, right? And these are the things that I'm teaching in the book. Number three, 1/3 of your life is spent sleeping. The average person sleeps for 26 years of their life. Do you realize that some people don't even live up to 26 years? And the average person sleeps for 26 years of their life. Here's the thing. You are never out of the presence of God. And God did not design sleep just for the body to gain rest. He also designed that state for you to also continue to commune with him, to continue to have encounters with him. You can make your bed an altar. That it's not just your body getting rest, but the place of communion can continue with the Lord. And you see, when you tap into the power of your dreams, you redeem time. There are things that when the Lord begins to reveal to you, because I'm talking about being in a stream of revelation, right? That in the state where you are, your busyness is out of the way. Your bias is out of the way. In the state that the Lord has the most liberty to plant the seed of his word in you, you can receive a word that will change your life. There are different reasons that God speaks. He can speak to warn. He can speak to bring creative vision. He can speak to release strategy. He can speak to bring impartation. He can speak to reveal future events. He can speak to give you an advantage in life. So you always want to posture yourself in a place that you are in the stream of revelation from God. One of the things that, the Lord had spoken to me about, for example, ministry, and I didn't know how things were going to happen. I was just simply being obedient to his word. And one of the things that literally launched me into ministry was my first book. I wrote a book called Moving Forward. And that book came to me, the name of the book, the revelation for the book, and details concerning the book was an instruction I received from a dream. And when I woke up, I didn't just think it was random. I knew that there's been a consistent pattern of knowing that you don't play with the voice of God. And to discern, right, the difference. And that's another thing, because in the book, we'll talk about how you can discern the difference between who sent the message. Was it God? Was it the enemy? Or did it come from you? Right? And that goes into the whole part of spiritual maturity. But it was a dream that gave me that revelation. And I remember waking up, praying into it. I'm like, God, my life feels stagnant and you want me to write a book about moving forward? The Holy Spirit confirmed it. And I wrote that book, and that book became like the final puzzle piece that the Lord used to usher me into ministry. Right? But it came from a dream. There's so many stories I can tell you. God has saved me literally from death. Literally, not in like this hypothetical way or whatever. No, literally from death, because of a message he gave me through a dream. And there's so many things that the Lord wants to reveal to his people. You have to know that Jesus did not die for you to not speak to you. He desires to speak to you. He desires to commune with you on a consistent basis, right? And the beauty with dreams is you already dream. Every single night, everyone dreams. It's scientifically proven. The problem is you don't remember your dreams. And part of that is because, you see, sometimes when we think about dreams, we're thinking about, there's certain spiritual habits that we must be intentional with, right? Number one is prayer. And why I say prayer is for many reasons. But for example, have you ever been at a hotel? Maybe you traveled, you went to a hotel. You didn't pray before you slept there. You just went there, unpacked your bags, did your thing. At night, you went to bed and you had this weird dream. Sometimes people may have nightmares, people may have sexual dreams, people may have these weird dreams that they're like, what is this? I haven't had a dream like this for a while. Do you know why? Because when you lay down on that bed, spiritually, you are engaging with the spiritual activity of what took place on that bed prior to you. That's why people have these experiences in hotels. You may have experiences in your friends' homes, that when you go to certain places, there are certain types of dreams you have. Now, if the spirit behind the people that were there, were, of the enemy, you may have very weird, demonic, just strange dreams. So there's spiritual habits that we have to be intentional about, right? When you wake up, keeping yourself in the presence where you received the dream. Sometimes we wake up and immediately we go to our phones and we're on social media and we're out of the place where we received the dream. And that's why, if you notice, the moment you wake up, it's almost like if you don't write the details right there and then, it just starts fleeting. And you're like, oh my gosh, I remembered my dream this morning, but I can't remember it because you came out of the posture of where the dream was planted. You started getting involved in activities and things like that. But if you wake up and you stay in that spiritual place, you engage with the Holy Spirit, then there are things that would be so fresh in your mind where you have full recollection. But prior to that, there are other habits that we indulge in that we don't realize. You see, just like in life and in dreams, your habits can either be the source of your limitation, or it can be a key to encounters as it pertains to dreams. Why do I say that? Because there are habits that you do, your nighttime and waking habits, that you're not even mindful of. For example, sometimes people would go to bed with the TV on, right? You fall asleep watching something or listening to something. And what you don't realize is that whatever you're watching or you're listening to, you're not just watching the thing, right? As entertainment. Your spirit is also engaging with the spirit that influenced what you're watching. That's why sometimes, people would be watching something crazy, and then they start having these weird dreams, and they're like, what the heck is going on here? And then those types of dreams may even continue because you went to bed with opening your spirit to whatever spirit influenced that media, right? And so if you don't see the importance rather, and the weight that your habits carry in influencing how you hear from God, that is where the enemy comes to bring deception. Like, if here's what people normally say: if a dream is so important, I'll remember it. It doesn't work like that. There are things that God will do out of his mercy, right? Where he may even cause you to have a reoccurring dream because he's like, you really need to get this message. But every single day is an opportunity for you to hear from God. But your habits can either be your limitation or it can be the key to your encounter. And so, we're going to be talking about habits, but I'm excited about this book, for many reasons, but especially that people will come into a revelation of the voice of God in their sleep. You'll redeem time concerning your life, that there are things that would be made known to you outside of, sometimes your schedule is your prison. Your busyness becomes your prison, right? That outside of that there is this place when you sleep that you can have encounters with God. There are different dreams that hold different meanings that will cause you to begin to question, like, wait, what am I in? Where am I involved in? For example, one of the hardest things to discern for a believer is spiritual manipulation. What I mean by that is when a believer is in a church and the spirit behind the church is not the Holy Spirit. I know that could sound weird by itself, but what? Aren't they saying Jesus? People, even in the Bible, the Bible talks about false prophets. Why does the Bible have to talk about it? Because it's not going to be that obvious, right? So there are times that a believer could be in a church and it's not the Holy Spirit that is the spirit behind it. They're demonic spirits that are orchestrating things. In the goodness and mercy of God, there are certain dreams that will trigger you to start questioning, what am I involved in? One of those dreams is when you start having sexual encounters in your dreams, where, there are people that keep trying to come, have sex with you, and very explicit things. And there's no reason in your natural life why you should be having those dreams. And these are warnings because here's the thing: in the natural and spiritually rather, sex is symbolic for oneness, right? That's why it talks about, when a man leaves, his mother and father, and goes to his wife, and the two shall become one, and all this good stuff. There is intercourse that brings them into this place of oneness spiritually. Now, when you're having these weird demonic dreams of seeing yourself sexually involved with weird creatures and weird people, and sometimes you may even see the face of that minister or things like that constantly, and it's a reoccurring thing, that the Lord is trying to warn you that you are becoming one with that which is against me. There is spiritual adultery taking place and you don't even know it. And so it starts to manifest in your dreams. It's not a nightmare. It's not to scare you. It's to make you aware that spiritually there is adultery being committed, that you are becoming one with things outside of the Holy Spirit. And so when you take such a dream and you bring it before the Lord and you begin to pray into it, he would open your eyes, because that is a blind spot to you. You're convinced about that ministry. You're convinced about the people, and you're like, this cannot be. And so in the Lord's mercy and goodness, he plants it in a dream, and he uses imageries that would be symbolic to you to understand the message he's sending. Because there are symbols that could be understood through biblical interpretation, and there are symbols that are unique to you, right? There are people who have dreams about, their teeth shattering. There are people who have dreams about constantly seeing themselves in a classroom, and there's an exam in front of them, and sometimes they're failing the exam, or maybe they passed the exam, and God is trying to communicate to you about seasons. Hey, you're in a season where you're supposed to advance by now. You're in a season where I'm calling you to something new, right? So prepare yourself that you will not miss what's next for you and stay stuck in where I have been, not where I am calling you to be, right? So dreams give us this unique experience to receive the messages of God in a way that it shouldn't, because people think that when a dream has, multiple symbols, it's confusing. No, it's actually God's mercy that you will get the message. Because sometimes if you just heard, I want you to move to Baltimore, and you are not trained and developed in the things of God, that voice could come from many places. That voice could come from you. If one time you visited Baltimore, you're like, wow, this is beautiful. That voice could come from the enemy to derail you. And so when he brings it in a dream and he shows you a symbol, and there are different things and it's layered, and there's certain patterns that show you how to identify if a dream is coming from God or the enemy or self, right? And so we talk about all these things. And personally, man, I'm excited. I know the power of dreams in my life, and the assignment on this book is to awaken a generation to the power of their dreams. And so I encourage you not only to get the book for you, but also for a loved one, right? You can join the launch team. I'm going to put the link in the description box, and it's also available on my Instagram channel. You see that we have a channel literally for the launch team at Stephanie Ike. But it's going to be amazing. I encourage you to share the message, right? Echo this with us, because it's not just because I wrote the book, but it's because of the message and the revelation that it carries that causes me to be so passionate about this. And I know it's going to change your life. And so, yeah, get the book. Love you all.